Good morning, brothers and sisters, and I trust you're being blessed real good. And it is really getting exciting. What a blessing. Let that plane go over right quick. But what an exciting time to be alive and remaining. Alive and waiting, alive and excited, alive and washed in the blood, alive and living because of a Savior, a Redeemer, who gave his life that we might have life. Hebrews 3, beginning at verse 1. Therefore, holy brethren, partakers of a heavenly calling. Yes, I'm talking to you. Consider Jesus, the apostle and high priest of our confession. He was faithful to him who appointed him, as Moses also was in all his house. There is a comparison made between Moses, and we say that Moses is a type of Christ, a type of Messiah, because of what we read in Deuteronomy chapter 18 and the verse 17 and 18. And the Lord said to me, they have spoken well. I will raise up a prophet from among their countrymen like you, Moses, and I will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak to them all that I command him. And it shall come about that whoever will not listen to my words, which he shall speak in my name, which he shall speak in my name, I myself will require it of him. Again, verse 2, Hebrews 3 and verse 2. He was faithful to him who appointed him, as Moses also was in all his house. For he has been counted worthy of more glory than Moses, by just so much as the builder of the house has more honor than the house. For every house is built by someone, but the builder of all things is God. Now Moses was faithful in all his house as a servant. See, we're not in Moses' house. We're in the house that Paul referred to when he wrote to Timothy. He says, but if I am delayed in tarrying, he says, what I want you to know how to handle yourself or behave yourself in the house of God, which is the church of the living God, the pillar and ground of the truth. The house of God is the church, is the ecclesia, is the called out. It's the waiting ones. It's the washed ones. Now Moses was faithful, verse 5, in all his house as a servant for a testimony of those things which were to be spoken later. And later is now. The scroll is being unrolled now. And the revelation that we are receiving is preparing us for this calling, being called out. We have been called out, the ecclesia, that's what we are, the called out ones. And now we are preparing to be called up. 2 Thessalonians. Revelation chapter 4. Now Moses was faithful in all his house. Verse 6, but Christ was faithful as a son over his house, whose house we are, if we hold fast our confidence and the boast of our hope firm until the end. I think it's time for us, since God has declared the end from the beginning, and we are at the end of our exodus, of our sojourn in Egypt, and our Moses, our Messiah, is leading us out. But how faithful was Moses? I mean, what was the outcome? We're just gonna cut to the chase right now and look at Exodus, if you will. That Moses was faithful, the Bible says. What did that look like? Numbers chapter 14 and verse 29. But the sons of Israel walked on dry land through the midst of the sea, and the waters were like a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. Thus the Lord saved Israel that day from the hand of the Egyptians. Thus the Lord saved Israel. Not saved some of them, but every one of them, all of them, everyone who had the blood over the doorposts when the death angel passed through. Everyone that left in that fateful night under the leadership of Moses, all of them, the old ones, the sick ones, the lame ones, the doubting ones, the fearful ones, the troubled ones, all of them, the sons of Israel walked on dry land. This is declaring the end from the beginning. Thus the Lord saved Israel that day from the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. See, beloved, we need to stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. I know we want to go home, but we're going to have to see some things. Jesus said, when you see these things beginning to happen, we got to see some things as we are seeing them now. But we shouldn't be unnerved by them. We shouldn't be frightened by them. Our faith should be strengthened by what we are seeing. And when Israel saw the great power which the Lord had used against the Egyptians, the people feared the Lord, and they believed in the Lord and in his servant Moses. Our takeaway here is these people now had been moved to a whole new level of faith. I mean, didn't they see God's great power with the 10 plagues, the frogs and the lice and the flies and the hail? Didn't they already see the great power that God had used against the Egyptians? What does it mean that they saw this demonstration? This was another demonstration. And God used his great power, and he's using his great power now to bring you and I to another level of faith. Faith for the finish. This is a fight to the finish. This is a flight to the finish. Wow. Take care, brethren, lest there should be in any one of you an evil, unbelieving heart in falling away from the living God. But encourage one another day after day, as long as it is still called today, lest any one of you be hardened by the deceitfulness of sin. For we have become partakers of Christ, if we hold fast the beginning of our assurance firm until the end. Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts as when they provoked me. Let's take these final moments as we gather together to prepare our hearts and minds for this fateful and final flight to the finish line. Be faithful unto death, and I will give you a crown of life, which will never fade away. Maranatha, beloved.